My father punished me when I talked to ghosts. I never believed in ghosts. Growing up, my father always told me that they were just a figment of our imagination, a result of our fears and superstitions. But that all changed when I turned 13. It was a cold, dark night and I was sitting in my room, studying for an upcoming exam. As I was deep in concentration, I suddenly felt a presence behind me. I turned around, but there was no one there. I shook it off as my imagination and went back to studying. But the presence didn't go away. In fact, it got stronger and more persistent. I could feel someone breathing down my neck and a chill ran down my spine. I turned around once again, but there was still no one there. I started to feel uneasy and decided to go to bed early. As I lay in bed, I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched. Suddenly, I heard a faint whisper. "Help me," it said. I sat up, my heart racing. I looked around, but there was no one in my room. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination, but the feeling of being watched and the whispered plea for help lingered. The next morning, I told my father about what happened. He brushed it off as a nightmare and scolded me for staying up late to study. But the incidents continued. Every night, I would feel a presence in my room and hear the same whisper. I started to lose sleep and became scared to be alone in my own room. One day, I decided to confide in my best friend, Lily. She was always interested in the supernatural and believed in ghosts. She suggested that we use a Ouija board to communicate with the spirit. I was hesitant at first, but desperate for answers, I agreed. That night, we lit candles, turned off the lights and placed our fingers on the planchette. We asked if there was anyone there and to our surprise, the planchette moved to yes. We asked for the spirit's name and it spelled out Emily. My heart raced as I realized that the spirit was a young girl, possibly the one who had been whispering for help. Lily and I continued to communicate with Emily through the Ouija board for the next few nights. She told us that she had been murdered by her own father and that she was trapped in our house. She begged us to help her find peace and move on to the afterlife. I was terrified, but also determined to help Emily. I begged my father to believe me and to help us. But he refused, saying that ghosts were not real and that I was just being influenced by Lily's beliefs. He forbade me from talking to Lily and threatened to punish me if I continued to believe in ghosts. But I couldn't just ignore Emily's cries for help. So, Lily and I decided to do some research on our own. We discovered that a family with a daughter named Emily used to live in our house many years ago. The daughter had disappeared and was never found. The father had been the main suspect, but there was not enough evidence to convict him. Lily and I were convinced that Emily's spirit was still trapped in our house and we needed to find a way to release her. We decided to seek the help of a medium, who confirmed our suspicions and agreed to help us. The medium performed a ritual and we were able to communicate with Emily one last time. She thanked us for trying to help her and said that she could finally rest in peace. We felt a sense of relief and closure, knowing that we had helped a lost soul. But our joy was short-lived. The next day, my father came home with a strange man. He introduced him as his friend, but I could sense that there was something off about him. He had a cold, menacing aura and his eyes seemed to follow me wherever I went. That night, as I lay in bed, I heard my door creak open. I saw the man standing in my doorway, his eyes glowing in the darkness. He whispered, "You should have listened to your father. Now, you will be punished for talking to ghosts." I screamed for my father, but he didn't come. The man approached me, his hand outstretched. I could feel a force pulling me towards him. Suddenly, I heard a loud crash and the man disappeared. My father rushed into my room, asking me what had happened. I told him everything and he looked terrified. He told me that the man was a vengeful spirit who had been haunting him for years. He had made a deal with the spirit to keep his family safe in exchange for his loyalty. But when I started communicating with Emily, the spirit saw it as a betrayal and came to punish us. My father finally believed in the existence of ghosts, but it was too late. The spirit had been angered and continued to torment us. My father tried to perform rituals and seek help from experts, But nothing seemed to work. The vengeful spirit was determined to make us pay for our actions. Years went by and the spirit continued to haunt us. My father became a shell of his former self, consumed by guilt and fear. Lily and I were never able to move on from the horror we had experienced. We were trapped in our own home, constantly living in fear. As I sit here, writing this, I can still feel the presence of the vengeful spirit. It never left us and I don't think it ever will. My father's punishment for talking to ghosts was a lifetime of torment and fear. And now, I am paying the price for my curiosity and desire to help a lost soul. I have learned my lesson, but it's too late. The vengeful spirit will always be a reminder of the consequences of meddling with the supernatural. I can only hope that one day, we will all find peace and be free from the horrors of the vengeful spirit. But until then, we remain trapped in our own personal hell.